Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout as we look ahead to Game Week 2. My name is Joe and today I'm joined by Mark, aka the FPL General, who will be revealing his Game Week 2 plans. How is his Mo and Erling list plan going? And given he's knee-jerked a player in at the weekend and removed a player with a good fixture 5 days ahead of the press conferences, my question to Mark isn't so much how are you, it's who are you? And what have you done with Mark?
Hi Joe, good to be back. It's my twin brother. My twin brother's playing FPL on my behalf this season. It's uh it's a long time since I made a Sunday evening transfer going into Game Week 2, but sometimes you just see a player that you almost had that you think you really need to have, and we'll talk about that later. But
Okay.
yeah, good to have FPL back the weekend. Watched loads of games and looking forward to chatting today.
Okay, rightio. So before we do that, just a reminder, do press that like button and do remember to subscribe. Keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts. Also, do check out latest offers for a membership area of Fantasy Football Scout to get access to all the latest tools and gadgets to help you climb up your mini league. Okay, let's put your team up that for game week 1. So you're all out so far, 49 points, just below average at the moment. So do you want to take us through your team? And as you go, sort of any of your regrets and anything you're just sort of pleased with, you're okay with?
Yeah, because of course, like everyone, things moved around a wee bit on Friday as we got closer to the deadline. I'll just touch on that first of all. I think the main thing that changed for me was Reinders came out for Rogers because Rogers got past fit. He was in my a lot of my early drafts along with Watkins, so I just thought, right, as soon as he's fit, I'll just get him back in, go for the double up. Reinders went out, and I changed something else as well. I think I changed Kukurea to eight Nuri last minute
Mm-hmm.
also. Just kind of viewed them fairly similarly as, attacking fullback. So that one went well. So I ended up with Sales and goal, Nico Williams, those two blanked. Frustrating not to get the clean sheet there.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't too far away from it. Porter with a six-pointer. He kind of came in to replace Van Dijk and Munoz, who I was, looking at quite a lot pre-season. Aitonry with a nine-pointer. The midfield, like many midfields, was very disappointing. Blanks across the board. Captain Palmer did nothing. Saka, Bruno, Rogers, and Verts. Clean sweep of nothing
Mm-hmm.
across the middle. Watkins blanked as well. And Chris Wood was the hero along with
Mm.
Aitonry. Chris Wood, not owned by too many people, got a brace, 13 pointer.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. And then on the bench, Dubravka, Anderson, Esteve, and Q.
Yeah. I think, I mean, in terms of, you mentioned about sort of what you were happy with or not. I think game week 1, there was some, in a way, there were some odd results to what we were predicting from pre-season and what we know about the players. So, for example, Chris Wood, not in my team, and to be honest, hadn't been for a long time because Nottingham Forest attacking wise in pre-season were awful. And Nuno was saying how ill prepared they were, and I wasn't quite sure what state Brentford would be in. But obviously, you've got faith in Chris Wood, but everything was pointing to them possibly scoring, but not scoring that much. But that wasn't what happened, so it was quite surprising, really. And other things were surprising. Obviously, Sunderland beating West Ham, maybe beating them a little bit, but they hammered them. Aston Villa, Newcastle. Aston Villa not doing their usual thing of scoring lots of goals against Newcastle. Newcastle being okay. Manchester United being a little odd, but showing glimpses. It was a strange game week. I think. I don't know whether you felt that.
Yeah, it's always an unknown, and I think we go into a season often as FPL managers thinking we know more than we do. Newcastle don't become a bad team just because Isak has got some speculation, etc. They still got very good players. Again, one of the reasons I didn't want to bench boost game week 1, I said a few times I don't like promoted teams playing at home on the opening day.
Mm,
So I didn't want to go West Ham on a bench boost against the Sunderland team. So that one kind of played out the way it can play out on the opening day.
mm,
Going back to the Nottingham Forest stuff as well, I was spooked a wee bit on Friday by Nuno's comments. I seen them
mm.
on Twitter first of all, but then I went to Sky Sports News and actually watched it myself. And to me, it was very much just more about signings and not getting enough new signings in. They've got Europe coming up, basically saying the squad's not as strong as it should be, but it will be when Europe kicks in. And I had no concerns over the starting 11 really. I knew we'd have them up for the game and ready. And Chris Woods, a lot of people were saying pre-season Forest are not scoring goals, but that's why I don't bother looking at preseason. I didn't watch one. I didn't watch a single preseason game. I looked at Chris Wood's FPL page from last season, 20 goals, penalties, minutes, fixtures, and that's why I ended up in my team. So that was a particularly sweet one.
Definitely, yeah. But yeah, there's been some changes. So you mentioned that you would hope to have Reinders in, and Rogers you got in, but now you're looking at that, and so let's put your team reveal up. I'll just go straight in with that. So there's been a change. Do you want to just take us through that? Who you're captaining, and yeah, I mean, what did you see about Aston Villa that said to you, "Oh my God, I've got to hop off this"?
It wasn't so much being in a rush to jump off double Villa. Yes, they had a really poor performance, and it doesn't feel fantastic having Rodgers and Watkins. But it was more about this guy Reinders. First time I've ever seen him play. Haven't caught any of him in other leagues or in Europe or anything like that. And sometimes a player just comes to the Premier League. It doesn't happen very often, but straight away I know it's a very small sample size, but one game of him was enough for me. I watched 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I watched some more of it back today, which is Monday, and I just couldn't go another game week without him. He was absolutely central to everything Man City did. Now I know they can play different systems and stuff like that, but if he plays in this system often, he is going to be ridiculous at 5.5. And I'm playing with a bit more freedom this season. I don't have Salah, I don't have Haaland. I don't want to, play my usual game of being patient until Friday night with transfers. If I see a move, I want to be, just convincing and just go and do it. So Sunday evening, I waited till the games were done. Reinders came in, Rogers went out. I wanted to get him at 5.5. I've got 1.5 in the bank now for the future, and I just feel better about my team now.
Okay.
So yeah, Rogers, watching the Villa game, to me felt they lack creativity. Rogers and Watkins were kind of the most, the attacking forces in the team. Tielemans played a bit more advanced, but he's to me still more of a defensively minded player. And then Kamara, McGinn, and Onana, they lacked width, they lacked creativity. So yeah, it just didn't come away from that game feeling great about Rodgers and Watkins, but Watkins will get more time, of course.
Okay, right. So your team, for those listening to the podcast version for next week, is you've gone for double Nottingham Forest defence, Sells and Nico Williams away to Crystal Palace. You've got Porro away to City, so he could get some kind of attacking return or defensive contributions. 8 Nori at home to Tottenham. Saka is your captain, Palmer your vice captain, Bruno Fernandes is there. Reinders is new in, and Vert's still there. Watkins and Chris Wood up top, and Dubravka, Esteve, Anderson, and Mark Gui on the bench there. So you think that I mean, you've already made your move, but formation wise, do you think anyone on the bench might come in? And are you happy with Saka as captain?
Yeah, I think on the captaincy, first of all, I watched the Chelsea game, a good chunk of the Chelsea game as well, and again, doesn't inspire confidence in Mr. Cole Palmer as a captain. He blanked for me in game week 1. He's now got an away fixture against West Ham. I know West Ham were, poor against Sunderland, but I still don't like that fixture on paper for Cole Palmer. When Arsenal are at home to Leeds, obviously I'll see what Leeds look like on Monday night. But to me, Saka, I've always kind of earmarked game week 2 for Saka anyway for the captaincy. So I'm pretty sure that's where I will go. Elsewhere, I think there's a case to be made that Esteve could get a start for me this week at home to Sunderland. If I don't want to play double Forest defence away to Palace, I could drop Williams to the bench and play the Burnley man. But again, Palace do have, I think they have Europe midweek, so I don't mind the Forest fixture when they're coming off the back of that one. So I'll look at maybe Nico Williams, Esteve later in the week. I will probably just play Porro in that Manchester City game for set pieces, etc., and hopefully some DEFCON. But you look at that midfield again this week. They scored 0 points, 0 attacking returns last week, but that midfield 5 could all get attacking returns this week. So I think the key to people is not to panic. I know I've made an early transfer, but don't do that just because I did. I think if you've got an Elliot Anderson or a couple of other guys in midfield, you don't jump to Reinders. But a big reason for me doing it was I did make that switch on Friday, and I just wanted to kind of reverse it straight away.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned about Porro there. One of the big change that I made to my team was I was pretty settled with everything. It was just Van de Ven was in, and I upgraded him to Porro essentially. I had 1 million sort of sitting there, and I wanted to make that move with this game week in mind. I thought they would both play. I thought they would both get clean sheets against Burnley. But did I want to play Van der Ven against Man City away? Or did I want to play Porro, who could get attacking returns, who could get defensive contributions? Because he's actually defensive contributions, although in game week 1 wasn't as strong. They have been in pre-season, so I wanted to give him a go more, and I'm quite happy playing Porro every week, good or bad fixtures.
Yeah, just you mentioned Salah and Haaland at the start as well. Obviously, it wasn't a fantastically enjoyable first weekend without them. Haaland gets his brace, and Haaland could have had even more. You know, he had that headed chance that he put over that you would usually expect him to score. Salah, it was all going so well for me. I was watching the Liverpool game, and it got to the 93rd minute, and I thought I actually went on. I went on Google around the 90th minute and I made a little graphic. You know, there was marked safe from Salah today, and I just finished making it, and then of course he just popped up and scored. So I had to. I'll keep that one for game week 2.
Yeah, he's ridiculously consistent in game week 1. Yeah, I mean, during the summer, my big decision was I knew I wanted one of Salah and Haaland, which one to go for. Obviously, Haaland got more than Salah, but I'm still happy one, just really for the captaincy, really. And I think both of them could just get returns most weeks. But as you said, your captains could get a bit better. I'll put the captaincy matrix up, see how we're going with this. Because like you, I'm probably not captaining Salah or I don't own Haaland, but Salah or Haaland this week or next week. So this week, the best captains, Haaland is according to the Rate My Team tool at Fantasy Football Scout, is Haaland against Tottenham at home, Saka at home to Leeds, so that's the one I'm going for as well as you, and then Palmer away to West Ham is sort of considered the third best. So game week 3, Palmer at home to Fulham. I'm still not that convinced by Palmer at the moment as a captaincy, but Bruno Fernandes at home to Burnley I do quite like, and we'll look at defensive contribution points in a minute. I just think he might be a bit more secure for getting points somehow. And then Haaland away to Brighton. He would be a very good one, I think. Brighton's defence still look pretty poor. Losing, I mean, those that doubled up on a bench boost on the Brighton defence. Well, that's
welcome back to FPL.
Yeah, welcome to being a Brighton fan's world. That was fairly inevitable. But obviously, game week 4 and 5, Salah's your man. Haaland, Palmer less so. Watkins is a continuation in game week 5, and game week 6 is back to Haaland, and Salah's not a great captaincy shout. Palmer could do all right at home to Brighton. So for you, you are relying on Palmer for captaincy. Not this week. I suspect Bruno Fernandes will get the nod for you in game week 3, but game week 4, 5, and 6 is back to Salah Haaland being the best captaincy shout. So how confident do you feel with what you've got, and whether Palmer's the guy for you in those weeks?
Yeah, I said it going into the season, I was going to be pretty reliant on Cole Palmer when it comes to captaincy, and week 1 hasn't filled me with confidence. I think it is January since he scored from open play in the Premier League, which doesn't bode well. And this, Chelsea, struggled to get on the score sheet at the weekend as well. So I'm kind of glad now that I've got maybe 2 weeks that I can go away from Palmer. I'll go Saka this week, and then I'm eyeing up Bruno Fernandes against Burnley game week 3. And hopefully by that point, Palmer has, the monkey off his back, the first goal in a while, and Chelsea look better in the attacking third. Because if Palmer doesn't get his finger out, I could be under pressure. Straight away game week 1, the Salah captainers, the Haaland captainers, they get a good kick. Whereas I'm struggling, and I'm relying on Aitnuri and Chris Wood to kind of tread water. I could do with an Mbappe or a Rafinha or something like that joining the Premier League before the transfer window closes. Isak going to Liverpool would be good for me, captaincy wise. I really hope that happens. Although Ekitike was really good at the weekend. Wirtz was a bit quiet, so I'm not really ready to rely on him for the armband yet. But yeah, Saka this week, Bruno next week, and then hopefully Palmer's back to being a better option.
Yeah, definitely. We mentioned about Bruno Fernandes game week 3, a strong captaincy shout there. Let's have a look at some stats I've got from defensive contributions for midfielders. Obviously, massively small sample of 1 week. So what I've got up here, so you've got for a midfielder to get defensive contributions, those extra 2 points, you've got to get 12 points. Oh, sorry, 12, defensive contributions to get to that extra points there. So I've put the ones that have achieved that in midfield. Most of those ordinarily we probably wouldn't go for. I've also got those that all narrowly missed out. And I've got 3 key players here that narrowly missed out on getting that and are either in teams or will be seriously considered. So in terms of defensive contributions, Tavernier at Bournemouth and Adams as well. Tavernier got 20, Adams got 19, so they're absolutely huge. Weaver at Brighton, 18, that's huge. He's playing in a sort of right back role there, but very defensive minded. Andre there at Wolves, 15. Onana at Aston Villa, 14. Odegaard, interestingly, at Arsenal got 14. Zubimendi got 12. Casado got 12. So a lot of these names we thought would get them. Odegaard is interesting, getting those extra points. Nico Gonzalez at Man City got 12. Cullen at Burnley got 12. He's 5 million. Bruno Fernandes got 11. So that's interesting because he just missed out by 1. So if people are looking and say Bruno Fernandes didn't get me defensive contribution points, oh dear, that he's never going to get them. He was very, very close. He was just like, a recovery away from it. Elliot Anderson, very, very close as well, widely tipped to get defensive contributions regularly there. He's only 5.5. Interestingly, I noticed this as a Salah owner. He was just very close to getting defensive contributions there. So this is one to monitor for those with Salah, that he could get the occasional defensive contributions, which is not something I would have thought possible. So yeah, they're the things that interest me about this. What about you in terms of midfielders?
Yeah, good to have a list of these because it's obviously quite hard to kind of track it. You kind of look at every team. It's been quite nice actually looking at while the games are on. It's nice that you can see it on the FPL app under the scores that they kind of update it in time, which is good. The things that stand out to me here are first of all the players we expected to do well. Elliot Anderson and Bruno Fernandes. So good to see them get a good start. I think those who are on Elliot Anderson, you're on to a good FPL asset
Yeah,
there. And I certainly wouldn't be jumping from Anderson to Reinders. I think they're both really
yeah,
good. And Anderson could end up being the better one. We don't know that yet. Um, I watched the Wolves game, and even though they lost 4-0, I thought they were pretty decent, and I really like their central midfielders. So it's no surprise to see Andre Gomez show up here with 15. I think the other guy, Gomez, got maybe 9, so they both did fairly well. I know Neil at Scout highlighted Max. Is it Max Weaver, 18
yeah, yeah,
in the first game, and he was pretty good for those last season as well. Tyler Adams had a really good game against Liverpool, so again, no surprise to
yeah,
see him on 19. And then you've probably got a few outliers. Odegaard and Salah, I'd be skeptical of here. They probably won't hit 12 very often. And Caicedo, of course, we always expect him to hit 12. So yeah, good to get some early information on this,
yeah.
but it's early days. Maybe first international break we can have a better look.
Yeah, we'll regularly update this. So I've gone to the Fantasy Football Scout members area there. There's a range of ways I could look at defensive contributions. I've done this so far just by appearance. Obviously, I could look at it per 90. It's fine at the moment because it's just one game week. But as the weeks go on, I'll have a look to see which is sort of the best metric there. It may just be appearance to do that. So that'll be like the sort of average they get per appearance. Might be look at it, percentage of matches they get it once we start getting really into the season. We've got like 20 matches under our belt. 20 game weeks under our belt. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see that, because as you said about Salah, if this is like, if Salah's like getting 3 or 4 every week, that's fine. But if he's starting to get 10, 11, like a lot of weeks, then that becomes interesting, because that could be a slight change. Is he being a bit more defensive in his old age? But yeah, the Elliot Anderson and Bruno Fernandes, I think, is a really good confirmation bias of what we thought was going on during the summer. Okay, let's have a look at defenders' defensive contribution. So once again, you've only got to get 10 points for that, because it's that's just what they do. That's what they're meant to do. But I've also put those that got 1 or 2 less, who could be interesting because they're in people's teams because of their defensive contributions. Okay, so we'll go with those that actually got the points. Van Dijk, as predicted, is a monster. this because he's got clean sheet potential, but he can also rack them up. He got 21 a point. You only get 10, so he ideally he would have got, there'd be an extra tier like those who played the Sky game, and he would be in like a tier 3 or something, and he would get like a huge amount of points. But he gets exactly the same as if he got 10. So Delete at Manchester United got 10. Van Dijk got double that, same amount of points. So Van Dijk doing really well there. Lacroix at Crystal Palace got 16. We thought he would do well. Senesi at Bournemouth 15. 8 Nori, very good here for those like yourself who picked him up. He got 15. That could bode well because we sort of gone for attacking returns, not defensive contributions. Ballard at Sunderland got 14 plus a goal. So this was absolutely wonderful. He got 17 points. So he's all round at the moment. Will he be a John Lundstrom? Who knows? But already he's looking pretty good at 4.5. Van der Berg at Brentford 4.5. He got 14. Saliba did well, got 14. Euro, Manchester United 13. Aina, Nottingham Forest. So we all thought it'd be Murillo. It's Aina, and he was like nowhere in the defensive contributions in pre-season analysis, but he got it. Byrne got 11. Share got 11. Cash at Aston Villa's the one there, got 11. Mitchell, Crystal Palace, we thought he would do okay, got 11. Delete with 10. What is interesting as well, those that didn't, Anderson at Fulham, he got 8, so he narrowly missed out. I don't mind playing him, the odd fixture, based on this. Munoz, once again, we thought he would do okay, and he got 8. Estevao, Electric Steve for Burnley, he got 8, so he was close as well. Sunderland looked quite attacking. He's currently on my bench, but I could play him. And Milenkovic is interesting. A lot of people got him in for the goal threat, the occasional goal he could get above Murillo, but it's he that finished higher than Murillo. He got 8 there. So really small sample, one game week, but just some interesting things to pop out.
Yeah, straight away, Van Dijk was in my draft basically all summer, and because we expected to see him near the top of this list, so it's no surprise. But 21 is an insane number, and going off that one performance, we can expect Van Dijk to hit this, pretty often. We knew that anyway. It was just the first 3 fixtures to put me off for clean sheets, so first off, they didn't get one, so I'm kind of justified in that so far. But I expect to own Van Dijk at some point. Maybe it's not until the first wild card, but if an opportunity arises before that, if there's an injury to a defender, for example, or eight Nuri's minutes look dodgy, Van Dijk will be the first place I go. Lacroix as well. I actually tweeted that he reminds me of Van Dijk the way he defends. I think he's looks like a top class centre back, and quite interesting to see the two of them here at the top on 21 and 16 respectively. Senesi was mentioned pre-season by a lot of people, so good to see him get 15. He's got some goal threat as well, so I quite like him from the Bournemouth defence. I was pleasantly surprised by 8 Nuri as an owner. I definitely didn't get him for defensive contributions, but I watched the game back today, and Luke had a good thread on X about him as well. Rico Lewis played right back, but he kind of had more freedom to go forward. Aitner didn't attack much, but because he was tucking in, he was doing a lot of defensive work, and obviously did well then on that metric. So I think whatever role Aitner plays, as long as he's on the pitch, you've probably got attacking returns in some roles, and then hopefully more of this in this kind of setup. Elsewhere, Euro jumps out 4.5. Hitting the thresholds with 13. He could be interesting. Aina again. We do expect Nico Williams to perform better. And again, it's only one game sample size, but keep an eye on that one, because Aina, we know, can do well for bonus points like he did last year. Cash is one to keep an eye on as well, but again, Villa weren't very good in Gameweek 1. Delict, but again, I think if Euro's going to play at 4.5, you're going to go there, I think, instead of Delict, even though Delict maybe has more goal threat. And again, good to see Anderson and Estev both on my bench, probably on your bench, many benches. Good to see them both hit 8. And Munoz is another player like Van Dijk that was in almost every draft of mine. I took him out, so I'll go back there at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Anderson's actually coming off my bench because I got Tosin in from Chelsea, thinking after the manager spent virtually all his press conference saying how amazing he is. He was, in fact, injured that evening or that morning, so he didn't play. So apparently it was precautionary though, and so it's not thought to be serious. So I'm hopeful he'll play again. But yeah,
Pretty pretty impressive to get an injury before the season
I
kicks
know.
off. Hopefully it's not a sign of the luck you're going to have this season.
Well, that's just. I mean, I couldn't believe that. But I mean, I had Anderson on my bench, so yeah, he was. But nearly got me 4 points. So he'll come off for 2 points anyway. So not too bad. But yeah, that's annoying because his replacement, who's 4.0 at Chelsea, did very well for defensive contributions, which was basically he stole my points.
Yeah, he had a
I got
he
the
had a
right
really.
player, just the
I'm not
wrong.
going to try pronounce his name, but he played really well in that game.
Yeah,
One of the best players on the pitch. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so commiserations to that, but I'm not going to kick myself about that because it was a good player to get in. Let's have a look at some expected goal involvement as well. So you got Reinders in now. He got just to add him into some context here. He did get 3 shots, one on target, one chance, but his XGI was quite minimal. But then he's only 5.5 and he's a midfielder and he had 3 shots, one on target, one chance, one goal, one assist. So these are good, but it just obviously remains to be seen whether he will convert that each week. But at that price, I guess it doesn't matter. But yeah, these are the top ones here. Haaland, no surprise, very clinical. Minutes for expected goal involvement, non-penalty every 36 minutes. He was expected to get a goal involvement. Ekiteke, every 61 minutes. Calafiori, every 77 minutes. Obviously, it's just one game, so for a small sample. Chris Wood, your man there, 82 minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty. Richarlison doing well, 89 minutes. But obviously he's going to share minutes with Solanke. Semenyo, not the fixture you thought he would get returns in, but he did against Liverpool. Still some speculation over his future, but Bournemouth now enter their good run. So if you've got Semenyo in and he stays at Bournemouth, great stuff. Every 96 minutes, expected goal involvement, non-penalty. Anthony at Burnley, one to monitor, 5.5. Lewis and Man City, as you were talking about the tactics there, he was the one going forward more. Alanga at Newcastle's interesting, one to monitor. Gibbs White, still class. Kudos at Tottenham. I've never considered getting him in, but a lot of the models were saying that he was good for Game Week 1, less so Game Week 2, Game Week 3, back again. And Elliot Anderson, this is good for Elliot Anderson owners, bearing in mind he's almost getting defensive contributions in that match, but he's minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty every 134 minutes, so he's sort of next on that list. So some interesting ones so far, but as I said, just one game week, so it's hard to make a judgment, but no surprise to see Haaland top, I guess.
yeah, and just on Reinders there as well. Just had some context from the eye test, having kind of studied the game. With a view to bringing him in. There was a couple of things to mention that won't show up in the stats. The first Haaland goal, Reinders was fantastic. Breaking through the middle, played the ball to Lewis, and Lewis squared it to Haaland. And then right towards the end of the game, there was a pass towards Reinders who was in the box, and Marmoush got a touch on it to take it away from Reinders. And if Marmoush didn't touch that, Reinders would have been in probably 1v1. And then we could be looking at very different numbers. So just want to mention those. And again,
Okay.
I'm just convincing myself that I've made the right decision to bring him in.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's not the wrong decision. How can it be a wrong decision? He's a 5.5 million midfielder who it looks like could be not as good as De Bruyne, but could be the De Bruyne replacement. So he's the guy that is getting that goals and assists. Will he be prone to rotation? Will different matchups? Will he play different matchups? Will he be a bit more less attacking in certain matches? I don't know. We don't know yet. But for 5.5, it's not like you're taking a gamble on a 10 million De Bruyne. You're taking a gamble on a 5.5 million player. So I can't see that being a mistake.
Exactly. Some of the other names here, yeah, Haaland. If you had him from the start, well done. You played the fixtures probably on that one. The first 3 looked pretty good for Haaland with captaincy in mind, so you're off to a good start there, and it could have been even better. Ekitike was really impressive, so it's all eyes on the Liverpool transfer situation to see if Isak comes in or if someone else comes in. If Isak doesn't arrive, then Ekitike at 8.6 is going to be very, very popular. I seem to remember Bobby Firmino used to always be 8.5 million in the
Yeah,
Liverpool
yeah.
front line, so we could have something similar there. Calafiori, wouldn't read into that too much. One game. Chris Woods, good to see that. Hopefully more to come. Richarlison was really impressive, and Thomas Frank talked him up a lot pre-season about how much he liked him, and that's just bad news for Solanke.
Yeah.
If Richarlison, puts in more performances like that, he could just become the number one
Mm.
striker, and there'll definitely be shared game time regardless if Richarlison stays, and
Mm.
he's certainly done himself no harm with that performance. So I think the Tottenham strikers are a stay away for now, which probably makes Kudus more attractive. Like
Mm.
you, I was
Mm.
never going to go there game week one just off the back of FPL returns last season, but he could very quickly become a
Mm.
must-have at 6.5 million. We know the quality of the player. We just wanted to see some more consistency of attacking returns, and maybe this is the team for him to do that. So keeping a very close eye
Mm.
on Kudus. Gibbs White, great assist for Dan and Doy, but again, 7.5. It feels like a tricky price point.
Mhm.
I'm already tripled up on Forest anyway. I would definitely get Anderson before I would get Gibbs White for 2 million less.
Mm.
Alanga looked very good for Newcastle. He really should have scored. Very good 1v1 chance, and he should have buried it. But Bizot made a good save. And elsewhere, yeah, Semenyo excellent against Liverpool, but we all know already how good he is. We just need him to hopefully put the ball in the back of the net more often, and he certainly got off to a good start.
Yeah, definitely. Let's have a look at, just before we go, some fixtures, a bit of forward planning there. So this we've mentioned a lot of names of players. We're monitoring their defensive contributions, their and the bread and butter of any player, goals, assists. So done this from game week 2 up to game week 6. I've done it up to game week 6 because game week 7 there's a bit of a fixture change. Some people are considering wildcarding. Then I'll start to bring that in a bit more. But game week 2 to 6 might be for some people quite a good time. But a lot of people are maybe wildcarding game week 13. So obviously they're looking at all of the fixtures up until then. But yeah, according to this, the season sorted by difficulty on the Fantasy Football Scout season ticker. Brentford, who are top, but they didn't look great against Nottingham Forest. They play Aston Villa, Sunderland. They got the Chelsea game, but they also got Fulham and Manchester United. Aston Villa are second. Brentford, Crystal Palace, Everton, Sunderland, Fulham, which is why I'm okay with Villa players at the moment. And commiserations to Consa owners as well. You did the right thing getting him in for these fixtures, but obviously he's got a red card, so he will be absent for some of this. Sunderland looked very impressive against West Ham. But yeah, they got Burnley and Brentford, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest. So really strong fixtures there. Bournemouth, this is where their fixtures really turn. They got Wolves, Tottenham, Brighton, Newcastle, Leeds. Really strong attacking fixtures there. Maybe not clean sheets in all of them, but yeah. Chelsea, West Ham, Fulham, Brentford, Manchester United, Brighton. If we thought Palmer was reliable as a captain, these are actually good fixtures. Nottingham Forest have got a couple of good fixtures, then they turn slightly for Arsenal, but then they get better again. So worth keeping. Crystal Palace, West Ham, Arsenal. Now I think the Arsenal game is after the international break, so Chris Wood will be travelling back from wherever New Zealand are playing, so he might miss that anyway. So have a good sub if you've got him, like you. Burnley and Southampton next after that. Brilliant. Wolves, you said they were okay. Watching them. Bournemouth, Everton, Newcastle, Leeds, Tottenham, strong fixtures. Fulham, not too bad either. Manchester United at home, I think that's okay. Chelsea away, bit tougher. Leeds, Brentford, Aston Villa. So Fulham are looking good, but bad fixtures. So Arsenal, they've got a really good next fixture at home to Leeds. But then they got Liverpool, Nottingham Forest, Man City, Newcastle. I am definitely looking to offload Saka in game week 3 myself. So looking at these fixtures, obviously there's lots of. I'm not going to mention every team's fixtures, but yeah, what does this make you think about what you're planning to do? Sort of game week 3, 4, 5, 6-ish. I mean, I've already said for me, Saka probably to Bruno Fernandes for me in game week 3. But yeah, what are your thoughts in general for these fixtures in your team?
Yeah, I think that is the thing that stands out most is Arsenal being bottom of the ticker. And I mean, we knew that going into the season that they didn't have a particularly easy start. Saka blanked in game week 1 against Manchester United. I'm going to captain him in game week 2. If he really annoys me and doesn't do anything against Leeds, I could easily see myself moving away for the Liverpool,
Mm,
Forest, Man City, Newcastle stretch. Question is, where do I go?
yeah.
Because, I don't go to Salah. It could even be Acuna or a Bumo for Burnley home, but
Mm,
then they do have City, Chelsea afterwards, which is not so good. So
mm,
it's probably going from one fixture problem to another. Struggling to see anyone else that jumps out at me that I would go to from Saka. Elsewhere on the fixture checker, Brentford, yeah, not a good game week one, but I think if you're on Thiago,
mm,
you've got confirmation of penalties, you've got a 6 million striker, and his minutes should be
yeah.
okay with, Wissa throwing the toys out of the pram. So that's a good pick there. But he's probably the only one I would go for at
Mm,
Brentford. Villa, hopefully Watkins, a bit of patience with him will come good,
mm,
and I'm ready for Rodgers' punishment because that's how FPL works. Sunderland, very impressive game week one. Adingra, a couple of those are
mm,
attractive. I think we're going to have to be very patient before we see Mark Yu in the starting 11
yeah.
because the forwards did well, and certainly don't bench boost with Mark Yu until we get security of starts, if that even ever happens. Bournemouth are quite high, so Semenyo, keep an eye on Kluivert's
Mm.
fitness. Someone like a Senesi, I like the goalkeeper there, Petrovic as well at 4.5. And yeah, hopefully Palmer does the business. And I think Joe Pedro owners should be patient there as well with him.
Yeah, definitely. I think a good one for you, perhaps, if you're looking at game week 3, removing Saka, to free up even more money for to go elsewhere, is you mentioned him already, Alanga. He's got Leeds away, game week 3, Wolves at home, and then Bournemouth away. And then they've got Arsenal at home, so it's a home game. So I think Alanga could be quite good. But the good thing about making a move in game week 3, and this is why I sort of penciled in a game week 3 move, is because you've got a couple of weeks worth of information. And we've got a bit of information from game week 1, but we'll have a bit more, I think. And game week 3 seems a good time to take a. We'll have a 6-7 million midfielder to look at who think, wow, they've really impressed in those 2 game weeks.
Yeah, Alanga's a good shout. I also really like Anthony Gordon. I thought he was probably the standout Newcastle attacker in
Mm,
terms of the eye test, playing through the middle, which is probably not his best position, but he had, a good headed
yeah.
chance. He had a couple of other half chances as well. And by the time we get to game week 3, we might know, who's playing up front for
Mm,
Newcastle. Is it Wissa? Is it Isak? Is it someone else? Is Gordon back on the left? And again, just on transfers, if Eze ends up at Tottenham, and by the time Game Week 3 rolls around,
mm,
if Eze and Tottenham are going into Bournemouth home, West Ham away, Brighton away, Wolves home, give me Eze
yeah.
over Saka. So yeah, a lot is going to change in the next, what is it, 12, 13 days until the window closes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's certain things I'm thinking about as well, like Reinders. Even if he goes up a couple more, if he goes up to 6 million by game week 3, I mean, it's not well, maybe, but if
He
he
will
is,
after his brace in Game Week 2.
well, that's fine. But if he is, that's great because I think 6 million is a bargain for a
Yeah,
player if he is in that good. And we'll know then. I remember last season getting a player like a couple of weeks after, and they'd gone up quite a lot in price, but they're still a bargain. So yeah,
yeah. I mean, if Reinders is what we hope he will be, he will be a bargain all season.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's
So
no
that's
there is
fine.
no
Yeah,
there is no rush really.
yeah, definitely. So that's good. So just before we go, I'll just put your team up again. Just as a final reminder there. So you've got Sells and Nico Williams, Porro, Ain't Nori in a 3-5-2 with Saka as your captain, Palmer as your vice captain, Fernandez, Reinders, Averts, Watkins, and Chris Woods. Any other final thoughts before we go?
No, so just reflecting on the Game Week 1 picks, I'm pretty happy with the thought process. The one that did sting was the taking Rodgers out for Reinders, but there was a lot of logic behind it as well. There was news that Rodri was
Mm,
traveling. I thought maybe he's fitter than
mm,
Pep was letting on. Didn't exactly know what role Reinders was going to play. We didn't know he was going to start. We didn't have that guarantee either. And I wanted to. I often go back to my first or second draft and ask myself really, why did I put them in the first draft and should I go back there? And that was what Rodgers was an easy one. Once he was
mm,
fit, I
yeah,
liked the fixtures, but then Reinders decided to play as well as he did.
yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out.
Okay, excellent. Now I'm not back. I'm away next week. But you will be, and with someone else, and then I'll be back again as we look ahead to game week 4, which will be at some point during the international break there. So good luck with the game week. Good luck with Reinders. Good luck with any decisions you make for game week 3 while I'm not here. Take care. See you soon.
Cheers all.